16 past. White House now scrambling to get a hold of inflation. Gas prices hitting yet another record. We mentioned that a moment ago. $4.71 a gallon. That is no bueno. The author of a brand new book. It's called Here's the Deal. The former counselor to President Trump, Kellyanne Conway, with us here in studio. And good morning to you.
Good morning, Kellyanne.
Good morning, Bill.
Congratulations. You debuted at #1.
I did on the New York Times
Well
bestseller
done.
list.
I'm going to ask you about that in a minute here. But first, I want to talk about gasoline, the price that people are paying, and also baby formula. I thought there were two comments from the president yesterday that were quite revealing. Here is one of them from the White House.
There's a lot going on right now, but the idea we're going to be able to, click a switch, bring down the cost of gasoline is not likely in the near term, nor is it with regard to food.
Okay, gas, food, and he found out about baby formula in April. Put all that together.
I know many people are frustrated, but I feel consternation toward the way this White House is addressing what is clearly a man-made disaster. People are blaming this administration for not intervening and doing enough to ease the pain folks feel at the pump, on the grocery store shelves, and now with infant formula. There's evidence that some people in the administration knew as early as last fall that there could be a crisis coming with infant formula. What Americans have a reasonable expectation of is that your leaders acknowledge problems, acknowledge the pain people feel with everyday consumables. People are saying to the White House, look, everyday life is becoming increasingly unaffordable. Do something, do something. They don't want to hear the President of the United States blame the President of Russia. They don't want to hear Brian Deese, who has the job Larry Kudlow, boy, do we miss Kudlow there, used to have, say it's actually the Fed's fault. That's Washington speak. They just, the landscape owner in your local community today who had to go fill up 4 or 5 trucks today to get on the job, he's feeling the pain, and he's looking toward Washington and saying, why do you always make problems worse? But I feel in this White House, you cannot solve a problem until you first acknowledge it. You've never seen, Bill, Sandra, more straightforward, plain as day polling numbers about what people want. They are saying the #1 issues to them are rising costs, inflation, immigration. They look at the border. They look at Ukraine. They look at the gas pump. They see crisis and chaos everywhere they go. Now they have a president and his spokespeople saying, don't believe what you see, believe what we say.
But people are seeing right through that. You see the latest Gallup polling on what do you think is the most important problem facing the country today. We've talked about this for days now. Top of the list, the government poor leadership, 19%. It is up there with inflation. You rewind even further than a lot of what you just said, and you remember Chief of Staff to the President, Ron Klain, when inflation first started rearing its ugly head, saying that these are high-class problems. So this is not an administration that has sympathized or showed empathy with the American people over what they've been going through. As far as the messaging, you have intimate insight to what it is like inside the White House trying to deal with a crisis like this. So lay it out for us. How could they be doing better? What should they do now?
You just said something very important. And remember, Jen Psaki also pretended it was a high-class problem when she said, oh, people can't get their treadmills from the supply chain. And when you don't empathize with people, you're never going to convince them that you have the leadership skills necessary. What do I mean? Well, remember, the forgotten man, forgotten woman, forgotten child were central to the Trump-Pence victory in 2016, to the governance of the 4 years in the White House. And you did have a president constantly saying, what did I promise? What did I say? How can we do it? In this White House, they pretend that they can't do anything about the problems. And to your point, when you have you have half the personnel leaving for whatever reason, 13 high-level departures from the vice president's office, and then you have the people still there not being able to produce a solid, credible message, a credible messenger, and to deliver that message in a way that soothes people's pain and makes them feel that you have a plan moving forward, it's a toxic brew. Look, I think in any White House, and I did it plenty, you have to say today or this week's been a rough time for the home team. But here's what we're going to do. You have to get the president on camera. You have to bring the press into the Oval Office. You have to get the president to the briefing room. Let them see leadership. But every time we hear from the president, he actually makes it worse because he never actually says, I'm sorry, I take responsibility. I think Joe Biden is two things right now as the public sees him and the polls show, Sandra and Bill. One is he's starting to sound more and more like a creature of Washington of 50 years. And he's not able to pull across the aisle into those relationships with Republicans or to tap into to our good standing around the world. It seems that he's making all of that worse. Number two, he sounds like somebody who never takes responsibility and accountability. So, for example, when there was a government shutdown over immigration, over the border funding, President Trump went and did his first Oval Office address in prime time. He brought members of the press in before the Oval Office address. They had lunch with him, and he explained what the plan was. He also saw that Schumer and Pelosi and others were gaining a little ground on us messaging-wise as the new majority in Congress to say it's Donald Trump's fault. It wasn't his fault. They were holding up the funding, and we were able to turn that around. But you have to say, this is not going well. You know what? President Trump had a 61% approval rating on the handling of COVID 1 month, and a couple months later did not. And it was incumbent upon us to go out there and say 100,000 ventilators, PPP, PPE, covering the cost
what you're saying is you explain the issue and you explain the problem.
And you take responsibility. We're trying. Here's the plan.
I think the problem he has is that he can't defend his own ideas. He can't defend his own policies.
It doesn't see it's a man-made disaster.
As I made the point, yes, it goes back to Kabul in August of last year in Afghanistan. Now, I remember when Fred Smith, he is retired as the CEO of FedEx just yesterday. He was on with Brett about 6 weeks ago. And I think there was a question related to politics, and he artfully sidestepped. He says, I'll tell you what I remember. Being in the Oval Office with Barack Obama, he said, do you want to know what my poll numbers are? They directly correlate to the price of gasoline across America.
He's right.
And now they're laser focused on this, and they're not doing much about it because of the policies that they put in place.
Yes, and the policies, it's action and it's inaction. Just quickly, you're going to see it in the fall. So in 2020, not a single incumbent Republican lost Congress, even though Democrats still control Congress. The 15 blue to red seats that happened were won by women, minorities, veterans, or some combination thereof. And this time, this cycle, Republican candidates are a much more diverse field now. You're going to see, I think, a monster year for Republicans.
You could,
but in large part,
you're going
because of what you're saying.
You're going to see some surprises in parts of the country that people can't predict. Congratulations on the book.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Why did you write it?
I wrote the book.
What did you want to say, Kellyanne?
You know, people know the stories behind the story. People always want to know the stories behind the stories. I grew up very modestly, my own version of the American dream. Really, how did I go from the tiny rancher with 4 Italian Catholic women all the way to the White House? And how were decisions made in the Trump White House? I think we miss right now a president who was transparent, who brought the press into the Oval Office, who himself went out to the briefing room and day by day communicated with the public so that everyone had the same instant, free of charge communication from a president and his spokespeople. People didn't like his Twitter feed here and there. Guess what? When Donald Trump was in office and Mike Pence was the vice president, no one ever asked who's in charge, what do they think, what's next. That's what we're missing right now. And I'll say this to you. I've been scouring all the polling numbers. They all say the same. Everybody's polls say the same. Inflation, cost of living is on the rise. Everyday affordability, lack of security, crime is on the rise, border security. But here's what I think the Biden people are missing. They came into office and they had 2 things going for them that they can no longer rely upon. They can say, but Trump, blame Trump, blame Trump. They can no longer do that. They've been there for a year and a half. And they also thought COVID was an advantage for them, God forbid. And they no longer, thank God, we no longer have COVID to the point that we did then. But they've never been able to transition out of how do we keep saying to people, you know, do this, do that on COVID, and we can blame Trump. It's time for them to take responsibility and accountability. I'd love for the president to come out and say, I'm going to bring some Republicans in, try to get things done. He's made inflation worse by spending. If Americans can't spend their own hard-earned money, they don't have financial freedom anymore. You as a government can't spend more and expect people to agree with you on that.
So I guess that's the deal.
That's the deal. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kellyanne.